All right, welcome back to the Survivor Conquest podcast, season 47, episode 4 recap. This is your host, or one of your hosts, Isaiah.
I am Kyle, and joining us today, the esteemed host of innumerable online Survivor-related franchises, namely the own unique game, Keys to Power, not Keys to Victory. Introduce yourself.
Yeah, I host Keys to Power. It used to be a weekly mini game, Survivor, Big Brother adjacent. Now it's whenever I feel like it. I've played a few games in the fandom, including Survivor Conquest, which we don't talk about my appearance on Survivor Conquest. Um, but yeah, I'm very excited to be on here today and to
And
talk.
what's your name? What's your name?
Oh, Oscar Gillette.
There
Sorry.
we go. All right. So, Oscar, you should start us off. What are your thoughts on this season so far? We know that you binged this season because you were planning to watch it when you got back from school, but you binged it just for your appearance on the Conquest podcast, which we of course greatly appreciate. So, give us your thoughts, your highlights of the season so far.
I mean, I couldn't turn down an opportunity to be on a podcast of this stature, so of course I was going to binge it. I think there's a lot of interesting characters. I don't love. I like last season, for example, there were a lot of players that I think socially I related or I thought I liked very early on, especially Kenzie. Um, this season, I think a lot of people are seeing the game a lot more mechanically, and I haven't found a lot of characters who like socially I relate to a lot or like socially I like a lot. But there's a lot of characters. There's a lot of people who are coming to play, and I think it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Um, I have high strategic expectations for the season, and I hope they're met.
That's pretty fair. One thing that I've said pretty routinely throughout the podcast so far is that I really feel like we've gotten a good sense of everybody on this cast. Genevieve was the last one that I felt like I really didn't know. And while I still don't exactly feel like I know her as a person, I at least have been introduced to her in a game sense at this point. Because
Yeah.
before this point, I feel like we just knew she was tied to Rome. We didn't even get her thoughts on that at all. We just knew that she was with Rome. That's it. And I still say that I don't really know her as a person. I know because of outside the game research that she's Canadian. She's the only Canadian on the cast.
Oh,
But beyond that, I don't know anything about her as a person. And we weren't even told that on the show, I'm pretty sure. So I'm excited to get to know her more as a person, but I'm very, very glad we got introduced to her this episode on a game level. Isaiah, what about you? What are your thoughts?
I mean, I'm sure the viewers probably don't know, but I'm pretty boring, I guess, when it comes to like what I enjoy from Survivor. I'm not the type of person who likes,
I mean,
I'm not
four
saying I
episodes in,
don't.
I feel like they probably know you're boring.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
we have a lot of core viewers, namely Jonah. You wondered
Jonah,
why
who
we
has
got
been
90
watching
something
100
views.
times anyway.
Sorry.
So I mean, not to say I don't like characters on Survivor because I do, but what I find to be most intriguing is gameplay and strategy. And we definitely did see that from Genevieve last night. And in fact, I will say, maybe some of you disagree with me, I don't know. I think Genevieve was the most valuable player of the episode. This was definitely her episode. Maybe you guys agree or disagree. I don't know. But I'm sure we will talk more about the Lavo tribe. I guess first we could kind of just go by tribe, or maybe not, because I guess from the start of the episode, we saw a little bit of Tuku and not much to say about Tuku, but there are a couple things that we could talk about, mainly, Sue finding the idol, which what was interesting was unlike the other idols from this season, it was good up until Final Five. I don't know if you guys think that's fair or not. I think personally it's fair because I think the task that she had to complete was far more difficult having to clean all that up. So I guess you guys could provide your insight on the Beware advantage.
I think part of it makes sense just because it's a re-hidden idol. Like every tribe's initial Beware and Manage idol was the box thing, which I was really disappointed that no one went for that third box. But I think it makes sense that a re-hidden idol then gets to be a real one. And I also agree that the task was, I thought it was really cool, very clever from production there. I rarely give Survivor production props. They did a great job there, but the task was really difficult and really enjoyable to watch also. So I think it's fair that she got the full idol.
Yeah, I think it's fair. Tuku definitely was the tribe we got the least of this episode. And really, that's my only complaint because, I mean, I've heard talk, at least in our community and even on Reddit, people are saying this is one of the best episodes that they've had of the entire new era, or at least in the pre-merge of the new era. They've loved this episode. And obviously, seeing the result at Tribal Council is what's pushing that narrative. And I feel like that's fair. My only complaint for this episode is that it was a bit imbalanced in terms of what tribes we got to see. We really only got one scene with Tuku this entire episode, and it was Sue dominated. And I'm not complaining. Sue's a very fun character, but beyond the idol find, I feel like we kind of just got a rehash. We got to see her breakdown, and but beyond that, it was just her saying what we already know. She talks about being underestimated for the 10th time this season, which is nice. I needed that reminder because apparently the survivor thinks I have dementia. But
Oh my God.
I think beyond that, the idol find was really cool. Interesting that this was the first time, edit wise, at least in my opinion, that the show has kind of undermined Sue, where after she cleans up, she's just like, no one's going to know I have this idol at all. And then Tiana and Caroline walk up, and admittedly, edit wise, it didn't tell us that Tiana was exactly suspicious that Sue had an idol, but she was suspicious overall. However, knowing how this has been edited overall, I have a distinct sense this is probably going to work out worse for Kiana than it will for Sue. So those are my thoughts. I'm not sure if anyone else could really have much more thoughts on Tuku. Poor Kyle didn't get a confessional this episode. I will point that out. That broke my heart.
I thought that she was kind of undermined by the edit in the scene in this episode where Gabe tells Kyle about him viewing Sue and Caroline as he Gabe didn't or we didn't specifically say Gabe saying as goats, but we can kind of get that from what Gabe said, and then Kyle told that to Sue, and she flat out didn't believe it. I think that's not as directly undermining her, but I think the edit putting those things next to each other definitely, to a certain extent, undermines each other. I really, I really think that Gabe on this drive is just overplaying so hard. And I think he's doing the thing where people come into the game with like a set mindset of what they want to do, and they view the game as a mechanical, strategic game and not as a social game. And it's totally ruining his gameplay. Like we saw in the episode today where he said, I came into I think we've seen this like 6 times, where he said, I came into the game wanting to work with the older woman no matter what. And it's like you have to acknowledge that there are some differences between maybe like a Sue character and a Carolyn character from a couple seasons ago, where, some of them, I don't think Sue is exactly the archetype that he was looking for when he said, I want to work with the older woman. And I think the attitudes that he has and the behavior that he has, it's not going to take long to rub her the wrong way. And I think it's going to mess up his game completely.
Yeah, I think it's fair, and Isaiah, I'll let you speak in a second here. But I think it's fair to say that if anyone got undermined on Tuku in the edit, it was definitely Gabe because his specific line was that Sue is going to tell me everything. And then we immediately see Sue go find the idol and say, I'm not telling anybody. So I feel like if anyone got undermined on Tuku, it's definitely Gabe here. And I think Gabe is being set up to be taken out by Sue at some point because he underestimated her.
I will say, I think Gabe coming into the game with a set strategy. I mean, we could all, I guess, speak from personal experience in terms of online Survivor. I feel like if you come into the game with that sort of mentality, you're setting yourself up for failure because the number one quality that every Survivor winner probably has is the ability to adapt. And you're not adapting if you're coming with a set mindset. You're limiting yourself in terms of how you can play and just who you can work with, etc. I also do want to say, I think Sue kind of played off the whole beware advantage blood thing terribly. She could have definitely done a much better job. I mean, she had several opportunities where she could have just like pounced on the like reasoning of having like that cut on her lip because they brought that up and she was saying, "Oh, did you cut yourself?" And she was like, "Oh, I was just playing with the machete." But then she was saying like, "Oh, I didn't cut myself," or "I just like bit like my tongue a little bit." She was very inconsistent with her reasoning as far as I guess like with the blood and what she was doing. So she could have definitely done a much better job in terms of covering that up. I think they kind of like gave her the setup and a good reason to, I guess, come up. I don't know, a good reason to, I guess, like cover that whole thing up. And I will say, I guess Oscar doesn't know, but Kyle knows. Sue is my winner pick. She is going to win the game.
Mm-mm,
I see some
mm-mm.
nodding, but hold on. Can we at least agree? And I think this is something we're going to talk about, and we have probably spoken, touched on like previous episodes of the podcast. Can we all agree a woman is going to win this season?
I would be fairly confident. I'm less confident in that statement now. I was more confident in it after like the first two episodes. I think the guys have gained a little ground. However, Oscar, you also don't know this, but I am now two winner picks down. My winner pick after the premiere was Asia. That did not work out. I then had a bounce back winner pick where I was just like, okay, like it doesn't count anymore. My winner pick's officially out of the game, but I'll pick somebody else just for the fun of it. And I picked Sean. So I am really not doing well. I am really scared for whoever I pick next, but that we'll save for later on. But yeah, I think Sue, and I'm not sure, I'll get, Oscar, you can give your thoughts, but my general consensus and why I didn't pick Sue initially, I feel like it's a bit too good to be true. I feel like consistently, we haven't seen this much positive content from the winners of the new era this early on. And that's the same reason why I would kind of count out Sam. Sam screams like seventh or eighth place to me, where he's been very dominant on his tribe, but I feel like it's too much positive content too early on. And I mean, we even saw some negative content with Stan today, but I'll let Oscar give his thoughts.
I think Sue's gonna. First of all, I don't like in terms of making winner picks. I'm not an edgic guy. I generally go based off of what we know about the characters, what I think about them, how they'll interact and engage with other people. So I think that gives me a bit of a like not as strong of an ability to pick Survivor winner picks. And the data backs that. I've been watching for 9 years. I've gotten two Survivor winner picks right and six Big Brother winner picks right. So I wouldn't, I've been wrong before on Survivor winner picks, but I just don't see Sue being able to win. I think she buys into her own ego and her own character a little too much to be able to win. I think we generally see people who are a little more self-aware having the social ability to navigate those end games. And I also think that it's kind of like I don't I don't think that she's going to be able to if she's not even able to hear what Kyle says to her about, hey, your ally sees you as a goat and really process it entirely simply because Kyle wrote her name down once. I don't know if she has the depth to really be able to engage in like an early merge type dynamic. I think that's going to be difficult for her. I do think she's going to be really entertaining. I think she's probably going to be a key piece in whatever the move of the season ends up being, just because she has that big move mentality, I think. I think that's probably why we're getting so much edit of her is she's going to make a big move at some point that's crucial for the season. I don't think we're getting a lot of edit from her because she's going to win.
I mean, I'm gonna defend her because that was like my winner pick before episode one. Actually, no, after we watched episode one. But I guess I would like to know, Oscar, do you have a winner pick right now? Is there somebody who you think has the upper hand in winning the season?
Um, I mean, I think if I had to throw out a name, and I'm going through a lot of the names real quick right now, my early like if I'm being honest, like I didn't watch any of the pregame stuff, but during the premiere, I generally try to pick someone who I think is going to win. And during the premiere, I did throw out the name Sam. I'm not entirely confident with that. I do think I agree with the general edit consensus here that a woman's probably going to win. We've gotten a lot of we got like on two different tribes. We got very early on like the conflicts within the tribe being framed from a gender perspective, like TK and Sue hating each other was very quickly framed as like a gender thing. Um, and then also we've got like the Breadwinners Alliance on Gata. Um, so I think it is very possible women's going. Actually, thinking about it hard, I think I'm probably gonna go with. Ooh, name is it's on Lavo. She was Keyshawn's ally. She went on the journey this episode.
Teeny,
Teeny.
What is it?
Teeny.
teeny.
Yeah, Teeny's my winner pick.
Yeah,
I
Teeny's
think
Teeny's been a popular one.
Teeny has the self-awareness, the general understanding of the game. Not in a great position on her tribe right now, but that's a fast-moving tribe, and I think has the humility, self-awareness, and social game to have the social elements of winning, while also I think the knowledge of Survivor deep enough to have the strategic elements of winning. And I just trust their gut. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's fair. I mean, I've bounced around between a few people. Teeny has been a popular winner pick. For me, if I'm gonna just throw out a name now, I guess, since we're on the topic of winner picks quite a bit, my backup winner pick now.
Oh
I
God.
said if Kashawn, I think I said to Isaiah, if Kashawn got voted out, I'm just gonna say fuck it and pick Kyle because we have the same name. But Kyle also got no confessionals last episode, and that's not great. It makes me feel like all his really positive content in episode 3 was very circumstantial because he went on the journey and because he was the only person remaining left out of the vote from episode 2. So I'm gonna go with the person that I've teetered around since the premiere. I'm gonna pick Sierra. Sierra is somebody that
Yeah.
has been quiet, and that's something that I kind of look for. It's not been insanely positive, but she's been there. She's been routinely seen as in a decent position, but she's not the focal point on the Gata tribe. I would say that's Sam right now, or Andy to a lesser extent. But Sierra is consistently there, in with the right people, in the best position, I would say, on that tribe. So I've been, like I said, I've been circling around her. I didn't pick her in the premiere. I kind of wanted to pick her after Asia got voted out. I'm gonna pick her now and hope that I'm finally right because I've just been circling around her for so damn long. Sierra, somebody that I've really had my eye on.
I
Hmm.
think Sierra has one of the best social games, like in the season. Like I think she's one of the only people where I think if everyone on her tribe knew everything about her game, I still don't think anyone on her tribe would target her. I think she's got a very strong social ability in that she's kind of good with everyone on the tribe, and not just good, but very strong with everyone on the tribe. And she seems like she'll have the ability to socially navigate with a lot of people in the season very well. I think that's it's a great winner pick.
Hmm.
Yeah, I will say, I think we're just about done talking about Tuku, but there's one bullet point that we have that we haven't touched on. No offense to Sue, you're probably not watching this, but if you are, you do not look 45 years old. I'm sorry. I didn't think that
Isaiah,
was
yeah, Isaiah, you don't look fucking 24 or whatever your ass is. You look like you're 15. Shut up.
okay, okay, but like listen, if you're gonna tell a lie, have it be somewhat believable, you know?
I
Like
also I don't entirely understand what the strategic benefit of lying about being
I
45.
agree. I don't
I
get it.
think it,
Is it like a so you're more relatable? Because that's not really I think at a certain point, once you know you're older than everyone, you want to be older enough that everyone kind of sees you as. And I know she resents the whole mom grandma archetype, but at least that perception will hurt her early on.
I think the perception is, and you have to imagine that while we're finding this out on episode 4, she's definitely been lying about this since they hit the beach.
Yeah.
So from her perspective, I feel like she gets there and she immediately wants to dispel the I'm the 50 something year old woman out here. So she says she's 45 the second they hit the beach, and then she can just work from there. Because then she's not the older lady, she's not Janet on this season. She's Sue. She's just one of the older people, but not the old person on the season. And I feel like it comes from that standpoint and just the bad history of being the older person on your tribe. And then I feel like historically that person does tend to go out early. And then at that point, once you've lied about it, you can't just be like, hey, so now I'm in a good position, everybody.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm 58. At that point, you just kind of have to stick with it.
Yeah. I think though the she's gonna get the old disadvantage anyways, and it's not her age that's giving her that. She has her appearance is very clearly of an older generation. Her attitude is very clearly of an older generation, and a lot of her mentalities and traits are very clearly of that older generation. And I think if you're 45 and you're behaving that way, you're going to be looked at differently than if you can just sort of write that off as like, oh, it's a generational divide thing.
Yeah. Admittedly, I will say, like, if I were on the beach and if I didn't know who Sue was, I was just being told information about who my tribe mates were. If I hear I have a 45-year-old tribe mate, I'm just like, okay. But if I hear I have a 58-year-old tribe mate, I'm just like, oh, okay, they're a bit old. So I feel like that's definitely something that you notice. Somebody immediately stands out when you hear they're 58. So I don't blame her. Admittedly, I probably, if I was Sue, would have gone with 50. I feel like that's much more believable. Although in her defense, we haven't heard anyone say that they doubt that she's
Yeah,
45. So
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I was gonna say that why did she wait to bring it up now? It would have made sense like if we saw something
I
like
don't
this in
think she
episode
did.
one,
It could be an edit thing.
I
Yeah,
guess.
I think we're just
Possibly.
finding out now, but she's been saying it the whole time.
I guess so. I don't know. I mean, honestly, I don't really think that would really hurt her right now that all that much. I think she's kind of like overcome that. I think she's in a pretty good position on the tribe. I mean, she has like Gabe and Caroline, but I don't know. I think it's a bit questionable, but I think we can move on to Gata, which, by the way, in my opinion, watching the episode, I thought we were set up for Gata going to tribal council. I was fully convinced Gata was going to go to tribal council and Annika's days were numbered. And I think looking at the tribe now, I think she's still the next one to go. And then also with them talking about the Breadwinners Alliance, like as soon as they mention that, I'm like, something tells me this is not going to last very long. So I guess you guys can give your thoughts on the Gada tribe, if whether or not you guys thought also they were gonna go home, go to tribal last night.
I definitely thought that's where the edit was going. I think I really, really, really like the Andy Sam dynamic. I love Andy and Sam's relationship and their friendship. I want to see that last. I would love to see them go far. I think I think I'm naturally a little bit predisposed to liking Andy, same way I was to liking Emily in season 45, where it's like we're the people who are just way too thinking mechanically, have a total emotional breakdown early on because they don't really understand the social aspects of the game and don't take social cues very well. And then they have to step back and recover from that. I love that play. It's my favorite little mini archetype that happens sometimes, and I always have a soft spot for that player. So I'm definitely rooting for Andy and Sam this season the same way I rooted for Emily. But I just in the same way I felt with Emily in the first few episodes, Andy just keeps making mistakes, and it is so hard to watch. Because I think obviously it was an interesting decision for Sierra to tell Andy about the Breadwinners Alliance without telling Sam. But then for Andy to go and tell Sam that was really dumb. Um, but then also for Sam to tell Sierra that Andy had told him that was kind of dumb also. But more important than that was because Sam's whole ability to hold his alliance together on this tribe is dependent on Sierra overcoming her distrust for Andy. And by telling Sierra, hey, Andy told me about this alliance, I understand wanting to do that because it's like, I want to clear the air. There's something up my allies lying to me. But it's more important for him in his position that his allies trust each other than it is that he can trust his allies. And I also think the way he went about telling Sierra was dumb. Even if you distrust someone, you should never tell someone in Survivor you distrust them. And being able to tell Sierra, like, hey, I'm upset about this, as opposed to saying, hey, I'm just letting you know that Andy told me about this alliance. And I don't care about it. I'm assuming that it was just named alliances happen all the time. I'm assuming it was just some bullshit thing you had to agree to and didn't even think of it as a thing. Even if he doesn't believe that, you have to say that. Because now not only is Sierra going to distrust Andy, Sierra's going to feel that Sam distrusts her, which is going to make it harder for her to trust him. And I just think there were so many mistakes made by Andy and Sam in today's episode that it was really hard to watch as someone who is rooting really hard for Andy and Sam.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I've said in podcasts past that Andy is so much fun. I love him as a character, and seeing him navigate the game is really cool. But at the same time, it also feels like there's 15 people on one island playing Survivor, and then there's Andy over on another island playing his own version of Survivor. Admittedly, I feel like one thing this episode that we saw, which happened later on, being the journey, Andy did do something quietly smart in that he just says, listen, guys, I'm on the bottom of my tribe. Andy, at least from what we've been seeing, doesn't fully believe that, at least from what he's been telling the camera. So I think that's pretty interesting that he's going to that other tribe and saying, listen, guys, I'm on the bottom. Like, pick me up at Merge. Like, if you're looking for that crack and gotta, it's me. Come on, guys. I think that's quietly pretty smart of him. And at the end of the day, he could be thinking from his perspective, this is the last journey before merge. So that information isn't even going to get back around to his tribe mates until they get to the merge. And at that point, everyone has already heard the information that that crack could be there. That information has festered. Everyone could be looking to Andy to flip, especially because from what we've heard from the previous journey, Sierra and Sam are being looked at as a duo. And I think if there's going to be somebody that they go after from Gata, it'll probably be Sam. Because I think what Oscar said about Sierra's social game is very much so true. Although,
Yep.
admittedly, I do still feel like we are going to see Gata go to one more tribal council this pre-merge because I feel like we've been setting up this Annika boot so
Hmm.
much
Hmm.
that either she's going to go mergatory or she's going to go this next tribal or the tribal after, depending on exactly when mergatory is. Speaking beyond that, yeah, I think Sam kind of messed up this episode. This was really Sam's first fumble, although you could even just speak earlier on that his arrogance overall, his confidence in his own game, you can never be that confident in Survivor, was a mistake. But definitely we saw him fumble this episode, and I agree with Oscar entirely. You can't approach your ally like, hey, this hurts. Why did you do this? Like, I know about this. Why didn't you tell me? You can't go pointing fingers like that. You just have to let them know, like, hey, I found this out. It's okay. It's whatever. I worked it through already. It's okay. I understand why you didn't do it or why you didn't tell me. It was probably nothing anyway. You can't go confronting your own allies, especially on a tribe of 5 people. That's really, really stupid. And it
You,
makes me a little bit, sorry, it makes me a little bit doubt that maybe we could see Andy go if this tribe goes back to tribal council, but I think it's definitely between Annika or Andy, and I still think it's going to be Annika, but it's a bit of a more of a toss up in my mind after this episode at least.
I think you have to frame on Survivor. Every conversation that you have, we think of the game a lot as like, do I tell as like a series of people making decisions about do they tell this information to that person, do they tell this? And flow of information matters a lot in Survivor. Um, but like flow of information matters more than numbers, but more than either of that is framing. And I think having the good sense to frame every conversation as you trying earnestly to help the person you're in conversation with is really important. And I've had this take for a couple seasons now in the new era that I think in the 30s to be a survivor winner, in the 20s and 30s you needed to be a great strategic player, a phenomenal strategic player, and a good enough social player. Well, I think in the new era you need to be a phenomenal, great social player and a good enough strategic player. And I think the lacking the ability to make those framing decisions effectively and to be constantly thinking about that. And I think we also saw it with the day where he was hungry and grumpy, where he lost the ability to like get along with Annika about the whole clothesline thing because he was hungry and grumpy. I think because of that social game aspects of the inability to just constantly be bullshitting and framing that type of those conversations, it makes me count out Andy and Sam from a winner pick perspective. As much as I love them, yeah,
Okay. I was gonna say, like, for Andy to tell Sam, I don't think it's that bad of a move, but I do believe for Sam to confront Sierra, that was definitely um a mistake. Now, in terms of talking about, I guess, Andy and Sam, I agree with Kyle. I think Sam is gonna be like a seventh or eighth placer. I don't know if you guys agree with let's take on Andy, but I think Andy's being set up to be a third place zero vote finalist. I don't know why. I can see it. I could see him making it to the end and just like not getting any votes because he was just simply somebody that probably just kind of like played very passively and kind of like attached himself to Sam. And I think we have been seeing that time and time again. He's very trusting of Sam and just giving him all this information and telling him absolutely everything. Now, I do also want to talk about the whole journey thing. I thought how each, I guess, amulet idol recipients, how they handled I guess, their storytelling of what happened was very interesting. They all came clean and basically just told their entire tribe exactly what happened. I think that's a mistake. I can see Oscar, you definitely do not agree with that as well because, I mean, if anything, I think it kind of like I don't know. It kind of makes the tribes want to vote him out, but at the same time, not really, if you think about it. Because if you vote like an amulet holder out of the game, you're also making it easier for the other amulet holders to actually use their amulet idols. So I guess you guys
yep.
can give your opinions on that as well.
I
You
have a
seem
lot
like you
of
want to talk, Oscar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
go
yeah.
ahead.
So first things first, I think that the amulet is and I think like the early seasons where the idol existed, you had a lot of players coming into the season saying, "I don't want an idol. An idol is a curse." Like Tyson said that in Heroes vs Villains. He said, "If you have an idol, it means you're going to go home. Like you never want an idol." It was, and that's how I feel about the amulet. I think it is the worst advantage. From an entertainment perspective, it's great, but I think having an amulet is a potent disadvantage to your game because it's two people who want you out and I guess the new format of the amulet changes that a little bit, but still, two people who are going to want you out. It forces you to work with two people who you might not want to work with, and that messes up your whole social strategic game. And it's an advantage that probably everyone's going to know about because there's no way that these three people who aren't necessarily allies who found an idol together, but three people who randomly are assigned to this amulet, usually on three different tribes, are going to be able to keep a secret together. It's an advantage that everyone knows about. And I don't know how much we talk about the fandom on here, but you've seen this in games I've played where I got an amulet in OSC whatever OSC 12, and the first chance that I got at a joint tribal, I was like, we got to play this thing as an extra vote. That doesn't matter. I know we have the numbers anyways. I just want it gone because I don't want it attached to my game. Um, I think also I agree with Isaiah though that the one advantage to the amulet is that you can, I did this on OSC 12 as well, is that you can say don't vote me out or that person's going to get more power. But I think now that it's an idol, no matter what, that argument has a little bit less teeth. And I also think that okay, the last thing is the information is them telling their tribes. That's, I mean, one, so stupid because the group collectively, the amulet is way more powerful if no one knows. Like every advantage is more powerful if no one knows for the most part. The amulet is significantly more powerful if no one knows. But I understand why because it's kind of like a prisoner's dilemma situation where the only way you can not tell your tribe and have it end up being fine is if you can trust that both of the other people are going to not tell their tribes. Because if I don't tell my tribe and then we get to the merge and everyone knows about it, they're all looking at me funny, like, well, why didn't you tell us? And I don't want to have to deal with that. So I'm going to tell my tribe. And because I know everyone else is dealing with that exact same calculation, I know they're going to tell their tribe, which means even more that I have to tell mine. But I hate having that. I hate my tribe being able to look at me and saying he has an advantage that I have to tell them about. I'm damned if I do and I'm damned if I don't, which is why genuinely, if I'm on that journey, I'm saying I'm not giving up I'm not going to give up my vote. Not because I don't want to give up my vote, but because I don't want an ambulance.
That's fair. I was going to try and speak as devil's advocate a bit, but you guys kind of covered exactly what I was going to talk about. I will say at least I like this amulet more than the one that we saw in, is it 42? I think it was
42.
42, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like this more because in 42, it felt like it was inevitable that it was always going to be an idol. Because if three people come together, oh, this is an extra vote. Fuck that. Three people and one extra vote. I don't care about that. And then two people steal a vote, a bit more useful, but that's still pretty circumstantial versus I vote your ass out and I get an idol. But this time, it's an idol always. And that's way more increasing the potential that these two could come together to actually use it if circumstances align. I still think it's very unlikely, but I think it at least increased the odds because I think it's impossible that if this were still three people and it becomes an extra vote if they put their analysts together, I don't think that ever gets used beyond the 1 in 1,000 chance that it just perfectly lines up to where it just absolutely makes sense. Beyond that, I think you guys kind of covered the defensive points that I wanted to cover for the amulets. I think it is smart to tell your tribe on a level that what Oscar said, the other people are probably going to tell them anyway. I don't want to be caught out as the only person who didn't tell my tribe and then they're all looking funny at me at merge. At the same time as well, if you're fully honest, fully upfront about what this amulet is, then you can look at everybody and say, listen, these other two people could get or could be one vote away from having a fully powered idol if you vote me out now. So that's going to be pretty dangerous. And that could be something that you could say, vote me out if you want to give the other people pretty much an idol. That could be a really good deterrent for not getting your ass voted out. Beyond that, the only thing I was kind of surprised by, and one thing I almost felt like I was waiting for it to happen, was that these actually look like classic hidden immunity idols. Hidden
Yep.
immunity idols in the new era
Hmm.
just look like little beads on a string. That's all they are. And that's
Even for
great. That's an
players.
idol. But nowadays, but with these amulets, I was waiting for somebody to lie. Because, like, imagine Andy says, like, yeah, I got this idol. It's good for one tribal council, but we all got one. Um, and that we couldn't leave or I don't have the paperwork because it was all just on this one plaque, which I believe that's true. I don't think any of them had paperwork to bring back to back up any of their claims. I was waiting for somebody to do that because theoretically I could just look at that and say, yeah, this is an amulet. But if somebody brings out this little shrunken head and tells me this is an idol, I'm not going to immediately doubt them, especially because I believe it was in 44. We saw three people go on a journey and get an idol good for one tribal council. They all swapped tribes as well, but I still think it's important to say that there's a precedent that people go on journeys and they just get idols. I feel like that was a missed opportunity for Andy, somebody that feels like that could feel like he's in hot water to give himself a bit more power in this game. And speaking a little bit more, one thing I want to talk about is who ended up giving up their vote. Teeny. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on this, but if I'm Teeny, I feel like fuck you guys. You're like I'm the one going to tribal council. You guys aren't going to give up your votes. Like screw you guys. I don't think I trust either Caroline or Andy in that circumstance. Yes, they could both come up with their own excuses, like I need my vote if I go back to tribal council, but I'm the one going to tribal council. Screw you guys.
I actually think it made a lot of sense for Taney to give up her vote because for two reasons. The first one, obviously, very safe on the tribe, very well positioned on the
Yeah,
tribe. And the second one being that I would almost rather give up my vote knowing that I'm about to go to tribal, the pre-merge, than give up my vote thinking this could be the mergatory vote,
that's fair.
or this could be a post. Like I don't want to give up my vote for that type of crucial vote. I'd much rather give it up knowing it's going to be this inconsequential pre-merge vote where I'm pretty much safe anyways.
Yeah,
As for your talking about the shrunken head, I definitely noticed that. And my first thought when I saw that, and I don't think it's gonna happen, but I would love to see it happen, is this is what I'd do if I had it. I'd find a way to use that damn shrunken head as a super idol bluff. Because in my opinion, there are not enough super idol bluffs in Survivor. Obviously, the super idol hasn't existed for a long time for good reason. It was terrible, it's overpowered. But I've done in fandom games, I've in DM games usually I've done the super idol bluff, and it's been my whole strategy. And it's obviously a little less able to hold together when you're actually talking to people for 26 days. But I think that's one of those things that's so out there where if you have a believable story as to how you got it, and maybe if the other two people go pre-merge or something like that, I think the fact that there's two other people to check you on it makes it not work. But if you can put together a believable story of how you got a super idol buff, it's so out there that everyone would be like, well, they wouldn't lie about that. And that just puts you in such a strong position if people think you have a super. Like, there's so much that you can do with that I really would love to see that happen. And I'm happy to see them bringing back this type of art where it's like this shrunken head that's like all the like the tens and twenties of Survivor, where it's like these like super extravagant idols. I love seeing them bring that back because it opens up way more interesting bluffs that people can use.
that's definitely fair. Beyond that, I think that about covers the journey. I think there's only a couple things to talk about with Gata being the chickens and Andy losing his shot in the dark. Andy losing his shot in the dark was a dumb Andy moment. At this point, I feel like we can classify an Andy moment and everyone knows exactly what I mean. I feel like that just kind of like furthered the storyline of Sierra not being able to fully trust Andy. Beyond that, I don't really know if there was much to glean from that other than it just being a funny little scene and Andy asking, "Can I take a nap?" And then you just see him lying like a corpse on the bamboo was kind of a funny visual.
It
The
was so
chickens,
relatable.
again, just kind of feeds into the storyline that Sierra and Sam are going to have some tension. And I
Uh-huh.
really feel like it's going to come to a boiling point, and I think it's going to end in Sam's demise. I don't think it'll happen soon, but I think it's going to end up happening. So beyond that, I'm not sure if you guys have anything to say about the shot in the dark or the chickens. Go ahead, but those are kind of just my things. I feel like they feed into the storylines that we were already being presented.
Not really. Although I do want to say about the whole like going back to the journey thing. I think what you guys brought up. I didn't think about this at first because it caught my attention too that the idols look like legit idols like back in the day. I'm like, oh wow, this is nice to see just from like, I don't know, an artistic point of view. But I did not at all think about the strategic, I guess, opportunities that that the players can have just with the style of the idol. I also do want to say, like, let's be real. There's no way, I mean, I could be wrong, but there's no way all three players are, I don't even think two of them are going to just agree to play the idol for one person. I thought it was also interesting how they sold it to their tribes, being like, oh, this is something for us that we can do for us. I
Yep.
think Caroline said it
Well,
like at
I
merge,
feel
this is
like
going to
that's
be
what
good for us.
everyone does.
Yeah, but like,
That's definitely what
does
everyone does.
somebody actually
But within
believe
the
that
context
though?
of this, it's explicitly
Yeah,
saying, let's as a tribe target the other two people.
kind of, yeah.
So I don't know.
Beyond that,
Do you? Okay, never mind.
What? No, I
is
was
that
just
everything?
move on to Lavo.
Was there
Yeah.
more Isaiah to that? I don't know.
No, no, no. I don't have anything else to say.
All right. Well, Lavo, I mean, I want to let Oscar take over because I want Oscar's thoughts on this tribe and a couple players in particular. Oscar, please give me your thoughts on Saul. Give me your thoughts on Rome. I want to know everything.
Okay. I'm a fan of Lavo. I think it's a fun tribe. I came into the early parts of Lavo, like in the first couple episodes, really wanting to love Rome. Like his talking about like, oh, I could have been in the NBA if I wanted, and I could be a rapper if I wanted to. I was like, that's hilarious. I would so get along with this guy. But I think the more that I saw of him, I mean, I think I got a little bit annoyed, but then I was also like, he's really grown into this incredible character where we haven't gotten a proper villain in Survivor in so long. And I think Rome is like a villain that you can root for the fact that they're a villain. And I think Rome in this episode, especially with like watching Saul as he would like literally walking with Saul, not letting Saul have a moment to himself. It's so like Russell Hantz villain core that it's nostalgic. I love to see it. I'm gonna love like rooting against it. He's a great foil, and I think in this era where every single player is a super fan and every single player is hyper aware of the cameras and hyper aware of networking and hyper aware of like how they're going to be perceived by fans, we never get a fun villain like this. And he's so clearly not thinking about that at all and purely thinking about, I want to have a good time on here and purely thinking about, I want to win the game. And I don't think he's great at the game, but he is really enjoyable as a villain. And I'm hoping that continues. Saul
Yeah.
Saul's face every time he's interacting with Rome is the funniest thing because I can tell that he just wants to punch him in the face, and I can't blame him. He has so much patience with him, but he's just so visibly exhausted in every interaction that he has with Rome that it just makes it hilarious. And then I love that the tribe is strategically active enough that it ended up coming out to a circumstance where Saul and Rome are voting together. And if that can, I mean, it won't be able to hold together, but if that can hold together, it's going to be one of the funniest sort of like strategic relationships we've had in a long time. Keyshawn was overplaying. It was for a lot of these episodes, I was like, oh, Keyshawn's not going to go very far overplaying, thinking of the game mechanically and not socially. I didn't think it was going to happen this early on a tribe with as many characters, but I understand how it happened. I'm happy to see Genevieve playing that type of game and playing aggressively because that means that everyone on that tribe is playing aggressively. Okay, those are and then obviously Teeny's my winner pick. Those are the download
Yes.
of my Labo thoughts.
I love this tribe. I think it's super, super fun. I agree with Oscar. I mean, after episode three, I was saying, I'm kind of ready I want Rome to get like hit hit on the chin strategic wise. Like, let's see Genevieve, his closest ally, get taken out. Then he has to sulk around. He thinks he's gonna get a bit of a foothold, and then he just gets taken out. Because I don't want to see this guy that's like one of the biggest villains we've had of the new era, probably the biggest villain we've had of the new era, which is kind of just a sad commentary on the status of villains in the new era. I don't want to see him be all high and mighty and then he just gets blindsided. I want his ally to get blindsided and then he has to kick his feet and we see him sulk around and mope for a full episode because
I
especially
machete.
see like that's just kind of what I want to see from him. And I agree with you, Oscar. He's not a great player, but one thing I've said in earlier episodes of the podcast he is good enough to get by, and that's one thing I really appreciate is that he is not a villain in character only, where he's just this really abrasive personality. He is capable enough in this game to have a strong foothold, be it forcing other people to work with him through his idols, his advantages, or just actually having a decent working relationship with Genevieve. I love that we're having a villain that, yes, you can root for in the sense that they're a villain, but you can also root against, but they're still actively succeeding. And that's one thing I really love, and that's something we've really lacked in the new era, is I feel like the editors have always wanted us to root against whoever's going home, and that's pretty much all we ever get. Be it just in their boot episode, we get their downfall episode, and beyond that, they're just like this okay player. Maybe they're a bit annoying, but that's kind of it. But Rome, we're actively getting him being a villain and succeeding, and that's something that I love. Is that he's not just this annoying person that goes home in episode 3. He's this annoying person who continues to succeed through the game, which is something that I feel like we've been starving for in the new era. These annoying presences that are on your TV and they won't go away. I love having that.
Yeah, I mean, I think Rome is somebody that a lot of viewers would like love to hate per se. Something also that I guess kind of like stood out to me just like watching the episode and seeing the Lava Tribe. And I know we kind of talked about like Soul and like Rome's dynamic. I kind of like put myself in like Soul's sh shoes. Imagine like me being on Survivor with like of Rome. I feel like I don't know. I feel like as a person, I don't really get annoyed very like easily or irritated or anything like that. But Rome is just, I mean, he's just too much. Like the guy was like following Soul, like finding the idol, and then he was like, give me your shot in the dark, or I'm gonna play my steal a vote and take. And is that like so that way you can't play your shot in the dark? But mind you, it wasn't a threat. It was an
It was an
ultimatum.
ultimatum.
It was an ultimatum, which honestly,
There was
like,
somebody on Reddit. There was
go
somebody on
ahead.
Reddit that posted the Cambridge definition of ultimatum, and it literally had threat in the definition.
So like I don't know, and honestly, like come on, like who would actually do that and just give away their shot in the dark? I mean, Soul would. I mean, good. By the way, good on Soul for not playing his shot in the dark tonight. I think that was a
Yep.
very good move on his behalf or on his
Yep.
part because if the tribe continues to go the way it's going, and if Soul is possibly the easy vote, they can't take his vote away, so he can still have that shot in the dark as a buffer, I guess. So I guess we could talk about the I guess strategy and how like the vote kind of came down, sort of.
Yeah. I mean, I'll just say, I mean, we can touch on the challenge. Kind of a nothing challenge except for the end with Rome sitting
I
like
feel
a
like we don't care
toddler
about
just being
challenges.
handed
So
pieces. I
we like
think the
never talk
funniest
about the
part,
challenge.
honestly, was not even Rome
The
struggling
bench.
to do the challenge. No, it wasn't that. It was Jeff afterwards putting a single piece into the puzzle and saying, apply to be on Survivor if you think
Oh
you
my
can do
God.
this. Wow, thanks, Jeff. I could do that. I think I could do that. I will apply.
I,
That was funny to me.
I was gonna say, like, actually, I forgot about that. Like that horrendous performance by the Lava Tribe. I just feel like it's kind of crazy and baffling. Like on paper, like how is Rome still in the game? Like that is probably one of
But
the
that's what
worst.
I love.
That is like one of the worst performances ever. And he was just sitting there. Like he was just like having Genevieve like handing like the puzzle pieces to him. He really wasn't doing all that much.
Like,
And just the
remember
look on like
fucking
Soul's
Saul?
face. I know, like after they lost,
Not that
he was
piece,
so
Rome.
annoyed.
Not that piece, Rome.
and Rum was not listening to Saul at all.
I wish we had like I wanted and I was waiting for it to happen. Rome to just like chirp back at him. Shut up, Saul. I was waiting for something like that to happen because it just kept showing Saul's like not that piece. It's no, it doesn't go in that way. Not that piece. But we didn't end up getting that happen. But that was just like the only noteworthy thing about the challenge. I feel like we can talk about the strategy going into tribal now.
I think before I just, I actually, I'll save this for the bold prediction part, maybe. No, I'm gonna say it now. I think Rome being such I compared him to Russell earlier, but I think the most accurate comparison to his personality is Coach in South Pacific. And I think Genevieve is going to be his Sophie. And I think she's
That's fair.
doing that very well already. And I could see her winning the season. It would require Rome being able to calm down at the merge a little bit so that they can get some footing. but Genevieve being able to go to the end with Rome and then a third person, and I think she would be able to win that, and I think that would be really enjoyable to watch. But going into the tribal strategy, I thought it was a really big mistake for one thing that I'm very frustrated about with new era gameplay is people don't know how to shut the fuck up. Like people let in too many people on every plan, and it is so frustrating. And I get the strategy behind it. Even if you don't need someone to be in on the plan for it to work, you don't want to have left them out, or else you're going to lose their trust going forward. And it makes you a more adaptable player. But sometimes you need to make a snipe happen. And there was a lot of that in this episode where I think people told plans to people that they didn't need for those plans to work. They told they didn't need to tell Genevieve about the Rome plan. And then they also definitely did not need to tell, I mean, Genevieve, when she decided to flip it, didn't really need to tell Saul about it. And it almost blew up the plan that she did. Um, I mean, I'm not gonna take too much away from her for that. Her plan worked. She made it work. And now she still has Saul's trust when she wouldn't. So good on her. The calculated risk paid out. But it was frustrating to watch all that happen. I think all you really need to do if you're in, I mean, I get the strategy changes based off, well, we don't know if Teeny's going to have her vote and Teeny didn't have her vote. But you still don't need Teeny to have her vote. And you also don't need Genevieve. You just need to tell Saul, like, hey, give your fucking shot in the dark to Rome so that he doesn't steal your vote. And then the two of us vote Rome. And then that's 2-2, and you win the revote no matter what.
Yeah,
All you need to
but
do is prevent the playing of the steal a vote, which you can easily do by A, not telling Genevieve about the plan, and B, having Saul give the shot in the dark to Rome.
I mean, I was gonna say yeah, but like Saul loses his shot in the dark. I mean it depends, I guess, how
Who
much you
cares?
value the shot in the
Who
dark. But I
cares?
guess on this season, that's like very valuable and something I actually, well, I guess the new pl era players think it's valuable and something I do want to like bring up too is we have yet to see somebody give their shot in the dark to another player in the new era or anything like that. So I'm assuming that is a thing. People can do that and somebody can play the shot in the dark twice. Or is no.
No. So it's happened a couple times in other New Era seasons in the pre-merge. You can't play it twice, but it's a way of guaranteeing that they can't play it.
Oh, I didn't know that. Gotcha.
That's what I'm like 90% sure is the case.
I just assumed that it's like
I
an
will say
advantage.
in the past, whenever someone's given their shot in the dark up, it's usually a just for this tribal thing, and you give it back to me after the tribal, and it's like a show of trust.
Okay, I didn't know
Hmm.
that. I thought like a shot in the dark kind of functions like an advantage or an idol that you could just give to somebody and they can just play it twice if they really wanted to. I don't know if
That's really
production has
I
ever
actually
confirmed
don't
that or
know
Well,
not.
that. I
maybe
don't
play
know.
maybe play once per tribal. Like obviously one shot in the dark per vote. So like you can't play it if like I would assume that's how it would work in
Yeah,
my head is you can play one, but then you've given up your vote. You can't play another because you don't have a vote to give up. And then if you have somebody else's at another tribal council, you can play it then. Is how it would work in my head, which I like that it's being discussed this season. Not only that the shot in the dark is being discussed without it being played, because one thing I've touched on in the past is that I usually feel like in the new era, I mean, I guess strictly in the new era, you only really see the shot in the dark discussed when it's going to be played. And then at that point, once you hear someone utter shot in the dark, you know someone's going to play it that episode. So I like that we're seeing it discussed more this season and it's not been played yet because we even saw Andy talk to somebody. I think it might have been Rachel or I know it was Sierra. He told Sierra, I'll give you my shot in the dark. And then I like that it's being used kind of like a currency. And yeah, like trust is a currency as well in the game, kind of. But like this is something tangible I can give you to show you trust. And that's really valuable. And that's something really interesting is that every single person is effectively just being given this little tool, this token of trust to give somebody theoretically in the game. And I really like seeing the shot in the dark be used strategically in a more complex way than just I'm going to play it because I think I'm going home.
I mean, I've always been a very outspoken hater of the shot in the dark twist. I think it's dumb. I don't like it. I really, really don't like it. I hate. I've always been an outspoken hater of any randomness in Survivor. I'm even iffy about rocks. Um, so I mean, Shot in the Dark is just the epitome of it represents everything I dislike about the modern era of Survivor. With that being said, I do like the strategy that it's been used for this season, particularly like I agree. I think Andy giving it up was smart, and I think it was interesting. And then the discussion around Saul potentially giving it up is interesting for sure. I still hate it. I still don't like it, but I still stand by though. Like I think it would have made sense for Saul to give that up to um sorry, to Rome. I think it would have made sense just because even though you lose it and you lose the ability to play it, it has no value. Like it has more value as a threat and a bluff, and I get that. But there's never in the 7 seasons of the shot in the, or the 6 seasons of the shot in the dark, there's never been a time where you can point to the shot in the dark actually helping someone's game, except for the one time that someone got an extra episode out of it and then immediately got voted out the next episode. It's not a valuable tool just because why like I don't it's not useful at all. And it being able to give it up for a guarantee that someone won't play their seal vote on you is it is way more value than I would ever expect to get from my shot in the dark in a given season.
That's fair. I feel like if I were in Saul's position, being threatened or given an ultimatum by Rome, I would see it purely as you're just threatening me to give you my shot for me to give you my shot in the dark so that I can't play it and then you can vote me out anyway. And at that point, it's just like saying, for me, I feel like if I were in Saul's shoes, and I think maybe this is kind of what Saul was thinking, is it's just basically saying, fuck you. No, I'm not going to do that. Because I feel like at that point, the writing's on the wall. And maybe, and even saw it work out differently this episode, Saul could have just held out that Rome can't use his steal while they're on the beach. So Saul can hold on to his shot in the dark now and hope that another plan comes up. And that is what ended up happening. And I will just talk because we haven't been talking much about the actual strategy of the vote itself. I think this was definitely I mean, obviously it was a mistake on Kashan. He way overplayed. But I think even just if I were in that position, and even if that vote works out for Kashan and they take out Rome, I feel like that's a mistake because whatever you want to say about Rome, he is loyal to that four, or he was loyal to that four. He was going for that four. And I feel like that's kind of what makes your coach analogy a bit like pretty accurate, is that coach was good with his crew. And I feel like that is really, really important. Like coach, I can't remember. I've never seen South Pacific and I only have a passing knowledge, but like coach was loyal to that alliance until basically like you had to take out other people. And I feel like Kashan, it is just big movitis, but Rome, maybe people would respect him at the end because he's such a big personality and he is so out there. But at the same time, everyone's going to be annoyed by Rome. How can anyone view Rome and say, and the people sitting next to Rome at FTC and say they were just using him as this big mouthpiece? I feel like it's way more important to take out Saul, who's this quiet, reserved, but I think seemingly capable enough player that I feel like it's more important to take him out. But I think the problem is that, especially in the new era, it's way less about loyalty, way more about big moves. And I feel like, I mean, the game's always going to be a million times more complex than what we're shown on TV. But I feel like it would make way more sense for Kashan to not overplay, not make the big move against his own alliance, and take out Saul at that tribal council. If even that move works out for him, I think it's a mistake.
I'm going to disagree with 2 points you made there. The first one being that Kishan shouldn't have wanted Rome out. I agree that Rome isn't a threat to win, but I don't think you're going after the threats to win at this point in the game. I think Rome was a threat to Keyshawn's social positioning at the merge because Keyshawn
That's
would have
fair.
been associated and affiliated with Rome. And Rome isn't going to be a coach. Rome doesn't have the 2 reasons. Rome doesn't have the social or strategic capabilities of actually carrying his crew to a majority. And two, Rome definitely doesn't have the numbers that coach had because it's a 3 tribe season. Um, and then, so I think it makes sense to take out Rome solely so that you don't go to the merge tied to him. Because it totally
That's fair.
pins down your game if you're stuck in an alliance with someone who is crazy. It's why people, it's yeah. The second thing is I want to clarify what I meant by Saul should have given up a shot in the arc. I'm not saying when he was given the ultimatum by Rome, he should have said, yes, I'll give you my shot in the dark. That's not the timing that I think. I'm saying after he had heard the plan from Saul, after he had heard the plan from Keyshawn, hey, we want to take out Rome. And they were thinking, well, what numbers could we have? We don't know if Teeny's going to come back with a vote. Do we go tell Genevieve? Because there is this steal a vote that we both know about. I think what they do there is say, okay, if Teeny comes back without a vote, it's 2-2, and they can make it 3-1 with the steal a vote. We just have to prevent them from doing that. I think at that point, it then makes sense to go back to Rome and say, hey, look, I'm willing to give you my steal a vote if you promise you're not voting me tonight. I'm willing to give you my shot in the dark if you promise you're not voting me tonight. I want to have my vote. Let's make this move happen. And just act like you're buying into his bullshit so that he doesn't use the steal vote. Because once you can force that 2-2, they're able to have the majority in the revote. And then they're able to make the plan work without having to tell Genevieve, who I think if you just, I think it was really dumb of them to expect Genevieve to go along with the move. I think that was incredibly like as much as Genevieve made a great move, she was also handed it on a silver platter, like a bunch of people saying, hey, we want to go after your closest ally and we need you to go along with it for it to happen. Obviously, she's not going to go along with that. And I think it was silly of them to try to loop her in instead of finding the way that was there for them to make the move happen without her.
That's fair. And I will clarify. I'm not specifically saying that Kashan's plan is to go to the end with Rome or that was his plan. I'm just speaking perceptually, if that were the circumstance that works out. Realistically, and at least hypothetically for what I would do if I were on Survivor, I would still take out Saul at that tribal council because Saul is a quieter, calmer player that has just some ability in the game. That could be someone that's a lot more difficult to take out in a merge situation. Whereas if you take Rome, I've been saying it for a while now, Rome screams mergatory to me. I feel like Rome is somebody that you get through now because that's a solid person that's loyal to you, and then you abandon his ass at the merge. And I feel like then that's somebody that you can say, hey guys, scoop me up, look how insane this ass is. And you get to abandon him. You're put into smaller numbers on your tribe overall. But at the same time, I don't think that's necessarily too big of a disadvantage. We've seen it routinely work out for tribes in different circumstances in the new era. We saw it work out with what was the tribe, the Tika 4 or something. I can't remember what they're in 44.
The
They
Tika
were
three.
three out of the final four. Tika 3, yeah. I
I
like we
think
see that work out with people, and I feel like at least for me, I would abandon Rome at the merge, but use him for the time while he's useful and while he's so dead loyal, and then abandon him for as the pariah he is come mergatory because I don't want to
I
be tied with him.
I think though, like having him taking him to the merge and using him for that purpose is kind of putting yourself on a sinking ship. I guess I want that loud, easy boot to exist at the mergatory, but I don't want that person to be someone who is associated with me, who knows information on me, who's part of my tribe. Because then, well, one, Rome's the type of player where once he realizes he's on the bottom and someone's going to tell him, he's not going to be blindsided at the mergatory. Once he
Yeah,
realizes that, what's he going to do? Who's he going to tell? Who's he going to take down with him? And what information about you can he put out there to put a target on your back that's going to last after he's gone? And then the second thing is, I don't want to lose a number that early at merge. I would much rather have that quiet player who I can confide in, who I can give information to, who I can trust with that information, and who I know is. It's like when you're forming the pre-merge, most of it is forming allies and building social relationships that you hope will carry you throughout the merge. And when you build an alliance with someone, either strategically or you spend time talking to someone socially, it's like you're investing in that person. I don't want to invest in someone who's going to crash right when you merge. I want to invest in someone I want my social relationships and my alliances to be people who are going to be there in the mid merge where it's able to pay dividends. I want and someone like Saul, as much as he is maybe a much more threat to win than Rome, I'm not thinking about that at this stage. He's much more of an asset to me in that he is more likely to be a valuable ally. He's more likely to allow me to control more of the flow of information and not blow up my spot. Whereas Rome is such an explosive player that you don't want to be standing next to someone who could go off at any minute. And if you're in his alliance and going along with his moves, you're guilty by association when he explodes.
that's fair.
I
All
was
right,
gonna
Isaiah, you
say,
haven't talked in a while.
yeah, I was gonna say like I don't know, somebody said like the purpose of keeping Rome as like an ex disposable member, like Mergatory or whatever. I don't really see that, I mean, happening. Like, if you think about it, four people are already out of the game. Mergatory will probably happen after one more tribal council. Like, why would Genevieve really go out of her way to save Rome to have him for like a very short period of time? I think what's going to end up happening is maybe perhaps Rome is just so much of a liability when they get to the Murgatory where they feel like their hands are being just like the other tribes are kind of just like forcing their hands. And we're like, well, damn, I guess we kind of just got to let him go. I don't think that's really what they intend on doing at all. And I don't really think that's wise. I mean, to go out of their way so much so to like, just get rid of them. But I guess we could talk about, I mean, I kind of feel like we covered like Lavo. The preview, which I kind of want to hear what you guys think this is, showed or teased a never before seen twist on Survivor, which is kind of crazy because it's like, what at this point have they had not done? And the preview shows a challenge with two colors. So it seems like it's gonna be two teams. Now, what I would like to happen, which this isn't a brand new, never before seen twist, it is though for the new era. So I'm hopeful maybe like, I don't know, they just like cut the audio and like Jeff Probst actually said this is a never before seen twist in the new era. Highly doubt it. But I would love for there to finally be two tribes on a new era season, two tribes of seven. That is what I am hoping for. That's what I'm praying for. Is that gonna happen? Probably not. So I guess I would like to hear what you guys think is going to be the never before seen twist.
I
So
think it's going to be they temporarily swap into two teams for a reward challenge, and that's it. I don't think that's what's going to. I think it's going to be some form of some kind of reward challenge, and that's it. Because I mean, we've seen clips of the tribes talking strategically in their current state, or at least seemingly in their current state. So I feel like it's probably just going to be some dumb reward thing.
I would be so. I think it could be what you said, Isaiah, where they cut the audio. Because they did do. I remember the preview for this like this last episode. We got we got someone on got us saying, "Are you two a couple?" And the way it was phrased made it seem like it was a confrontation. And then we
Yeah.
found out that it was. Um, I could see that happening. I could also see maybe it's a swap to two, and the never before seen twist is how they do it. There's ways that they haven't done a swap to two. They've done schoolyard pick. They've done random draw. There's got to be some ways that they haven't done a swap to two. Maybe that's the never before seen twist. I am really hoping it's a swap to two, and I think we've gotten a lot of strategic conversations, but I don't think that those are necessarily like bad, like wrong in the edit if they do swap to two, because they could fit in that those strategic conversations, like maybe someone says, "Oh, this is what would have happened if we went to tribal," and that changes the strategy on one of the swap tribes, or maybe the ten. Like I think everything we've seen before going into existing like tribal dynamics that could play a role in future tribals could still matter if those tribals don't happen. So I don't think from an edgic standpoint it's out of the picture that it could be a swap to two.
I really hope so. Although I think what Kyle said is very likely, which is disappointing. Like it's
Yeah.
some reward challenge. They go to the sanctuary or whatever, which
Mm.
it's stupid
Where
because
good things happen.
if you look at the previous like new era seasons, Mergatory happens once five people are out of the game. So they're gonna like, I guess, have interactions from people from the other tribe. It's like what to then the very next episode, they're all just gonna reunite in Mergatory. I feel like it's completely pointless. But I hope they do two tribes to seven because it also would make sense with the format of the season. I think we should have two more people, I guess. No two or three more people like pre-jury or whatever. So we have two more boots, hopefully on the the new swap tribes, and then the merge boot, like on a traditional like pre-new era Survivor season with 18 people. That merge boot is just not on jury, and then no mer honestly, that actually be kind of crazy because that would mean that there is no mergatory at all, I guess, this season. Actually, no, it can still happen. I don't know.
I I really hope you're right that this twist would be two tribes of seven, two tribals at those two tribes of seven, no mergatory, because I'm so sick of the mergatory.
That would be really nice.
All the most iconic and legendary tribals in Survivor, if you were to list the 20 most, 15 of them at least are going to be merge boots. The merge is such an incredible moment in Survivor, and it's robbed from us by Mergatory. And I would love to see a traditional merge come back, and I would love to see the three tribes. I would, I would be completely won back by Survivor if they did that. If they did that 3-2 and then Mergatory, you can keep Shot in the Dark, you can keep all the dumb twists. If you do that and bring back just those elements of traditional Survivor, I'm happy.
I mean, Jeff Probst did say before this season started airing that a twist, I think that has like never, that has recently returned in the new era was going to come back or something like that. That hasn't been around for a while. I believe Kyle and I talked about this. We might have talked about this on the podcast. We thought it'd maybe be the auction. I think it actually might be a tribe swap, and it hopefully it's done in the way that we hope it's going to happen, where it's two
I
tribes.
would love that.
But he said you're saying he said it's something that's happened in the new era, but before
That
that
has,
it happened.
so I think the wording was something that has returned recently in the new era that hasn't been around for a while is going to come back this season. And so initially we
Then it
thought it
couldn't be a
was the
tribe.
auction.
The auction or the tribe swap is what makes the most sense.
Well, there haven't been tribe swaps in the new era.
There was
45.
one in 45.
Oh, you're right. There was. Oh, so it's probably tribe swap.
I hope so.
Hopefully.
We're all so excited for a tribe swap. Two tribes in seven. Watch us just get like disappointed. I'll be so sad.
It's a joint tribal council and then mergatory and then merge.
Oh crap.
Yay! And then they split it into two different groups.
Oh my God.
Oh,
Well,
that
for
is my
the
least
sake of
favorite
like
part. They do
scheduling though,
mergatory
being
and
on
then split.
schedule, they're probably gonna do that at some point when they merge because it's 26 days. I
Well, they
think
always
it
do. Ugh.
happen.
Because when they do that, we don't get a real merge boot until the fourth boot of the merge. And that's so frustrating. I've always been the biggest hater of doing the group tribes in the merge. Like, no, you're in the merge. It's all one thing. Because also when you have that as a consistent thing, people aren't going to be thinking in each tribal, oh, how is this going to affect the numbers of the next tribal? Because next tribal might just be a fucking split. And then when you take all of that out, all of the I need to make sure that what I do at this tribal sets me up for doing something the next tribal that sets me up for doing something the next tribal that sets me up. When you take that strategy out, you lose like the iterative permutational strategy of Survivor, and what you get is purely everyone managing their own threat level and assessing other people's threat levels. And that's entertaining, and that leads for more fluid gameplay sometimes. But that and just that is so boring, and I think been too much of the new era, and we haven't gotten many proper alliances outside of kind of in 45 that I think has been disappointing. And in 45, where we did get a proper alliance, which everyone hates a pagonging and everyone hates a proper alliance in a two-sided war season, but was 45 not incredibly popular and it was 45 not an incredible season? If you're able to bring back that alliance-based permutational iterative strategy where people can predict the format of the next episode so that they can prepare for it, it creates more complex and interesting. Yes, it takes away some of the adaptability, but it creates more complex and interesting strategy, and I think that makes the show so much better. I think they got to get rid of the fucking split tribe twist. Sorry, I don't know if children watch this. I did just swear.
I don't think so. Well,
Just,
maybe.
just, just
I don't know.
Jonah. Just Jonah.
Uh, uh,
Even though like the channel analytics does say that we have like many, depends, I guess, how you define many, but I guess many unique viewers. So
Different accounts. Just different
different
accounts,
accounts.
man.
I think
Um,
I was gonna say I think we kind of covered everything we have. And
yes. I mean, I'm still loving this season. I am so happy Roman Saul stuck around. I know, like that we had the whole debate of just like who should have gone home, Roman or Saul. At the end of the day, I'm happy to see Kashan go and Roman Saul stay. I want both of them on my screen together as long as possible. I think it's so much fun having them both around. I'm really liking this season. I'm so happy we finally got to meet Genevieve. So beyond that, I think that's kind of my closing thoughts. My brand new winner pick should have picked her from the premiere, Sierra. Isaiah,
watch
you
her
give
go
your
home
closing thoughts, and
next week.
then Oscar, close us out. Isaiah, you go ahead first.
Oh, I was gonna say watch or go home next week, but I guess like before, well, I mean, I don't really. I guess I do have closing thoughts. I think so far this season has the potential to be like the best new era season. I don't think that's crazy for me to say. The pre-merge has been really good so far. 45 is my personal favorite so far from the new era, and especially if we're starting to see some like return to form back to the old Survivor, I guess, era, if that's what you want to call it, with what we're all hoping and praying for, the two tribes of seven. Please let that happen next week, but I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't. So I mean, yeah, I mean, honestly, that's all I really have to say. I'm very, very pleased and surprised with this season so far. I guess also something that we should do is give our like realistic and bold predictions. I'll do that now. In fact, I'll say the bold prediction is two tribes of seven. That is my bold prediction for next week. And the realistic prediction, I hate to like not call my bold prediction realistic, but my realistic prediction, I'm gonna say that hmm, I'm going to say that I mean this kind of like I'm gonna say for my realistic prediction, which is kind of like undermines or completely, I guess, nullifies whatever you want to say for my bold prediction, that Gata goes to Tribal Council and Annika goes home because I think we were really set up to see, I guess, Gata or more of Gata and them going to Tribal, and I think Annika's the easy boot. So Annika is going home next week. That's my realistic prediction.
Okay, I'll give my bold and realistic predictions, then Oscar can give his closing thoughts and his predictions. Isaiah, I'm gonna echo you and double down. My bold
Oh
prediction,
boy.
we get two tribes of seven. Swap, it's gonna be amazing. I'm gonna lose my mind. The recap for that episode is gonna be 5 hours long. It's gonna be so much fun. My realistic prediction, Isaiah, you kind of stole mine, but I'm going to say it anyway. I think Gata's going to lose. We've been building up on this Gata tribe for so long, this storyline, and I feel like it has to boil over. I feel like they have to lose and go to tribal at least one more time before we come into merge or mergatory. So we'll see, but I think we're going to see Gata go. Annika goes home. Oscar, close us out.
Okay, so I don't know if these are supposed to be specifically for the next episode, but if
It
so,
doesn't matter.
okay. My bold prediction, I'm gonna actually be bold and not do the same thing that the people before me did.
Oh
Um,
boy.
Triple down, triple down.
my bold prediction is gonna be that we are gonna get a legendary Sue-Rome rivalry at a certain point in the season. And that is going to be a major arc of the season is the Sue-Rome rivalry, at least for one episode. And then my realistic prediction is going to be that I think we are going to see Andy play. We're going to see Sam play his idol on Andy at the. So not. I am kind of echoing your twos in that it's going to be Gata going to tribal, but I feel like that's. Besides that, I think Andy is going to play his Sam is going to play his idol on Andy, and I think it's going to cause some tension with Sierra, and I'm looking forward to that. That's my realistic prediction.
Very nice. And do you have any closing thoughts, Oscar, or are you about done?
I enjoyed this very much. I will now be a loyal listener of. I'm going to go back
Good.
and watch all the previous
Good, good.
episodes.
Don't
And
watch Fisher's episode. No one wants to watch that episode.
okay, except for Fisher's. I mean, that kind of was assumed. Um, and I hope that this is. I really hope my closing thoughts is I really hope they kill the Mercatory. I really hope you guys' bold predictions are right. That's my closing thoughts.
Alrighty.
Okay. I was gonna say, I guess
Well,
that's it for the Survivor Conquest podcast. Like every YouTuber would say, like, subscribe, comment,
Hit the
whatever.
bell.
Do all that, and we will see
hit
you
the bell, share
guys.
with your friends, buy YouTube Premium, download the video, play it as you sleep, as you drive your car, watching a movie in the theater. I don't care. Listen to the Survivor Conquest official podcast always, every time, all day. Isaiah, say whatever the fuck you're going
Or
to say.
you could be like Jonah and just have it on replay over and over and over again.
Damn
Now,
right. Thank you, Jonah. We're
all
looking forward to you
right.
in the
That
finale.
is it for the podcast this week. See you guys next week with the recap for Survivor 47, episode 5. See you guys then.